News.
Out in the Portland area. Also up in Seattle, it's 52. Currently 55. It is cool and it is damp. It's 6 o'clock. World News Tonight is next.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin this evening without the benefit of a military briefing from the Pentagon because they canceled it today. Nonetheless, we believe there has been something of a shift in tactics, and therefore we're going to begin with our Pentagon correspondent, John McCarthy. John?
Peter, the U.S. took another big step into Afghanistan's civil war today by again bombing Taliban military targets, clearly trying to alter the military balance.
Taliban garrisons near one front line in this civil war were carpet-bombed today by B-52s, a terrifying spectacle of 50 500-pound bombs ripping the earth for the length of several football fields. ABC News has learned that on another target, a tank garrison, the U.S. loaded a B-2 stealth bomber with a huge 5,000-pound bomb normally used against deep bunkers. The resulting explosion is horrendous. Officials say an important reason for selecting these particular weapons was psychological, to frighten Taliban troops into deserting. Intelligence sources say opposition forces on several fronts are now making impressive gains against the Taliban. The U.S. also broadcast pro-American radio programs into Afghanistan today from a flying command post called Commando Solo, using the frequency of the Taliban's most powerful radio station that the U.S. bombed off the air 2 days ago.
Sources say the U.S. is trying to engineer a delicate power-sharing arrangement in Afghanistan. That is the goal. The reality on the ground tonight, Peter, appears to be panic and chaos.
One question about the briefing, John, which I said had been canceled today. We've been 3 days now. We've had 3 photographs of bomb damage. Is the Pentagon unable to assess what it has done or just doesn't want to share it with the public?
It appears, Peter, that the Pentagon does not want to share the details of what is going on. They keep saying that it is a different kind of war, and so far it has been a war with very little information.
Okay, thanks very much. John McCarthy at the Pentagon. We'll see what happens tomorrow. At the world's most influential Islamic conference today, representatives from all over the world did not condemn the United States for attacking Afghanistan. They did express concern about civilian casualties. We do not know how many people have died in Afghanistan, civilian or military. We do know that the last several nights have been very rough. ABC's David Wright is there.
The skies above Kabul have thundered for 4 nights now. 4 very long days and nights for those on the ground. We haven't slept for days, says this shoe shiner in Kabul. 8 miles east of Kabul, a family's home was hit. The target may have been an abandoned fort nearby. We were about to get up for morning prayers when the bomb hit our house, says the owner, whose wife and 2 children were injured. On the outskirts of Kabul, people have been digging trenches to protect them from the air raids. And in Jalalabad, streets are empty. People trying any way they can to get to the border with Pakistan. There were thousands of people on the road with us, says this man. Crossing into Pakistan is virtually impossible. The border is technically still closed. These families left Kabul at night after a bomb landed near their home. They made it to Pakistan, but only because they braved a treacherous mountain pass. Many who are leaving say it would be one thing if the Americans were only bombing the terrorist camps in Afghanistan, but they say the killing of innocents is not okay. UN officials today accused the Taliban of attacking innocents as well. The UN says Afghan workers in 3 cities have been beaten by Taliban authorities and that several truckloads of aid have been confiscated. David Wright, ABC News in northern Afghanistan.
It is hard to get a handle on what is happening all over Afghanistan, a country the size of Texas. But we got a quick appraisal this afternoon from our leading specialist on Afghanistan, Professor Barney Rubin. The Bush administration is giving quite a lot of attention and enthusiastic attention to the Northern Alliance. Do you think from the point of view of Afghanistan as a whole, is this a good idea?
Up to a point, but I'm worried that to some extent they're overdoing it and not being clear. First of all, the more they talk about the Northern Alliance, the more they give the impression that they want to put that group in power, which causes a negative reaction on the parts of other groups, in particular Pashtuns, who may be against the Taliban but won't join the Northern Alliance.
Are there risks to Afghanistan if the Taliban does suddenly collapse?
Yes, in fact, Northern Alliance representatives, as well as representatives of the former King Zahir Shah, have said to me that they're worried about what they call a premature collapse of the Taliban, because if that happens, there'll be chaos, anarchy, and civil war, and at present, there's no political alternative that is ready to provide security to the people.
Many thanks. Barney Rubin. It was a very tense day in Pakistan. There were demonstrations in towns along the Afghan border, people furious with Pakistan's support for the United States. Pakistani border guards clashed with the Taliban for the second day, and there were even rumors of a coup today. The president, General Musharraf, felt it necessary to issue a statement saying there was no truth to any of it. In Washington today, President Bush unveiled a new most wanted list. Our White House correspondent Terry Moran joins us now. Terry, it's a list of 22 terrorists. It's very international. What is the White House looking to accomplish? What does it think it can accomplish?
Peter, White House officials say that the president made the decision to announce this list himself in order to make a very public point, and that is that the campaign against terrorism is much broader than just one individual. They're trying to broaden it beyond the personality cult that's developing around Osama bin Laden. The 22 suspects who made the list are already indicted for crimes dating back 16 years, from the embassy bombings in Africa back to a hijacking in 1985, and Osama bin Laden is chief on that list. They say it will work because of money, lots of money. They're offering up to $5 million rewards for most of those suspects. They also say that the U.S. domestic 10 most wanted list has a 96% capture rate in its 50 years. And there's a State Department program which has been offering rewards for the capture of terrorists that has already awarded $8 million for 22 captures over the past few years. So they're confident that it can do something, but the real point is that it's not just about Osama bin Laden.
Thanks very much, Terry. Terry Moran at the White House. When the president released his list of the most wanted terrorists today, he got a lot of attention in the Arab world. A few years ago, he might not have. And the difference is a television phenomenon called Al Jazeera. 50 million viewers in the Arab world, influential and controversial. From the Persian Gulf nation of Qatar tonight, ABC's Gillian Findlay.
Okay, stand by.
Another night of bombing, and the tension in the Al Jazeera control room is growing. This small Arab station has the only TV correspondent in Kabul, the only satellite dish. When American planes attack, Al Jazeera supplies the world with pictures. When Osama bin Laden wants to speak, a tape mysteriously arrives at Al Jazeera's offices in Kabul.
You like it? You feel proud of it, that you're doing this scoop, this good thing for such a station?
Al Jazeera was created by the Emir of Qatar. From these tiny studios in this tiny country, it broadcasts all across the Arab world, from the cities to the deserts. Anyone who could afford a $200 satellite dish can get it.
And what draws those viewers is not soap operas or celebrity interviews or reality-based TV shows. It is news and political discussion that was not heard in the Arab world until Al Jazeera.
Religion, sex, democratic reform. Al Jazeera has broken all the taboos, infuriated almost every Arab government. Its programs are often a forum for those who hate those governments, and sometimes for people who are sympathetic to bin Laden. When Qatar's Emir visited Washington recently, he says he got an earful from U.S. officials wanting the coverage toned down.
It's really unbelievable. I can't imagine why would America, the advocate of liberty, freedom of speech, and would really ask for such a thing to take place.
The journalists here insist they are balanced. They do broadcast what bin Laden says, but they also make a point of carrying every American briefing live. If George Bush is really worried about what Arabs think they say, he should do what Britain's Prime Minister did this week, an interview with Al Jazeera. Gillian Findlay, ABC News, Doha, Qatar.
And now anthrax. The State Department ordered all U.S. embassies today to stock up on an antibiotic for treating anthrax. And Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, said it will increase production of the drug called Cipro to meet exploding U.S. demand. We also learn more about the anthrax which showed up in Florida. Here's ABC's Brian Ross.
Federal authorities said tonight that a third employee, a 35-year-old woman, had been found to have been exposed to anthrax at the American Media Building in Boca Raton, Florida. The case is now officially being called a criminal investigation.
3 basic questions that we as criminal investigators want to answer. First, how and when was the bacteria introduced into the building? Secondly, by whom? And thirdly, importantly, why?
Health officials said the third employee was now being treated with antibiotics, and the tests on hundreds of other employees are yet to come in. Brian Ross, ABC News, New York.
One other example, by the way, of how stretched the U.S. military is, for the first time in the 50-year history of the NATO alliance, the U.S. has asked NATO for planes to patrol U.S. skies. 5 AWACS from Europe will be deployed here. They can fly for as long as 8 hours at a time and track low-flying aircraft that civilian radar might miss. When we come back, how the hijackers prepared, testing security on flight after flight. We'll take a closer look at the suspects who vanished and raise the question, and others have, should immigration be restricted? And a note tonight on the propaganda war, the radios from the sky.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Chevy Trucks.
The flags are back up. They're playing football again. And thousands of people are once again experiencing the simple joy of buying a new car. And GM is helping with interest-free financing on every car, truck, and SUV, now through October 31st. Keep the dream alive. Keep America rolling.
29, 30. 30.
Now at Red Lobster, you can get 30 mouth-watering shrimp for just $9.99. Red Lobster, go overboard.
It's a different kind of Fixodent with no artificial flavors or colors. It's Fixodent free. Fixodent holds stronger, holds longer than any other free adhesive. Fixodent and forget it with Fixodent free.
Time to relax. What a time for bad heartburn. Try Extra Strength Mylanta. It works on tough nighttime heartburn fast. So go ahead, relax, if you can. Extra Strength Mylanta.
Oh, the things we endure for beauty. Being lathered in hot, molten metal. Buffed until raw. Inspected over 100 times. But that's what it takes to be a Delta faucet. Every Delta is carefully crafted and meticulously refined to be beautiful inside and out. Isn't it worth it? Delta. Beautifully engineered.
I'm very proud of my lawn. In the fall, I use Scott's Winterizer. The food enters the root system, stores it over the winter. Then in the spring, perks that grass right up. Scott's Winterizer gives me the last green lawn in the fall and the first green lawn in the spring.
College Football Thursday. Bruce Perry takes the undefeated Terps into battle with a rambling wreck. College Football Thursday. Maryland, Georgia Tech at 7:30 Thursday on ESPN.
We learned something else today about the September 11th hijackers, which reinforces how well they were prepared when they took over 4 commercial flights in one morning. ABC's John Miller has another part of the answer. John?
Well, Peter, investigators and airline officials have been working very hard to retrace the steps of the hijackers going back months through the summer. What they're learning is that they took repeated flights to Boston, to Los Angeles, to Chicago, to Las Vegas, to New York, observing and sometimes even videotaping security and in-flight procedures. But the hijackers' main focus seemed to be on how to gain access to the cockpit in flight. August 1st, Las Vegas International Airport. 2 of the hijackers board U.S. Air Flight 608, bound for New York. A man later identified as one of the hijackers claimed to be a student pilot. He asked for and received a tour of the cockpit. The suspect also asked if he could fly with the crew in the cockpit all the way to New York and observe flight procedures, but that request was denied. 20 minutes after takeoff, he told flight attendants he needed to get back into the cockpit to look for an expensive pen he said he'd left up there. Despite his insistence, the flight crew was firm. No one gets into the cockpit while the plane is in flight. ABC News aeronautics consultant John Nance.
These hijackers were trying to reduce all the variables possible. They were trying to find the way that they could every time get into a cockpit. And what they found was it's pretty difficult to do in flight because we've got absolute prohibitions against that.
Investigators have now documented a series of almost identical ruses over the summer, but none in which the suspects actually gained access to the cockpit while the plane was in flight. Investigators believe the fact that the hijackers learned they could not talk their way into the cockpit in flight is the reason that on the day of the actual hijackings, the cockpits of all 4 flights were taken by force. Peter?
Thank you, John. John Miller. The national briefing begins tonight with a swarm of tornadoes. There's significant damage across western Oklahoma and Nebraska. After 23 tornadoes last night, emergency officials say they are amazed that no one was seriously injured. About 150 homes were damaged. Democrats in the House of Representatives have elected California Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi to the second most powerful job in her party's House leadership. It is the highest position ever held by a woman in the Congress. She's the party's disciplinarian. There was a rally on Wall Street today despite more bad news about layoffs and job cuts. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 188 points to close at 9,240. On the NASDAQ, stocks were up 56 points. The former Senate Majority Leader Mike Mansfield was buried today at Arlington National Cemetery. He was proud all his life that he had been a Marine, and he was buried with military honors. Former Senator Mansfield, for Miss Mansfield, who died at 98, served longer than any other majority leader. And the International Association, or put it more accurately, the International Astronomical Union, which names celestial bodies, is going to name 3 asteroids in honor of those who died on September the 11th. They're going to be called Compassion, Solidarity, and Magnanimity. When we continue, so many visitors from overseas who cannot be found. A closer look at immigration laws and security.
I'm every man.
And every woman who ever suffered from frequent, persistent heartburn.
If you've treated your heartburn and changed your diet, but it comes back 2 or more days a week, then you may know about the burning pain of acid reflux disease.
But there's something about acid reflux that I didn't know.
Over time, that acid churning up can wear away the lining of your esophagus.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I didn't.
But today, there's a purple pill called Nexium. It's from the makers of Prilosec. Just 1 prescription Nexium a day gives many people complete resolution of heartburn symptoms.
That could mean complete heartburn relief.
And importantly, Nexium is also proven to heal erosions in the esophagus caused by acid reflux. Only a doctor can determine if you have this damage. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium and Prilosec are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. So talk to your doctor and call this number for more information and for a free trial certificate for Nexium.
Relieve the heartburn, heal the damage. It's possible with today's purple pill called Nexium.
Broyhill is having their first national sale. Broyhill savings for every room in the house. Living rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms. It's a great sale. Hurry in, something this good won't last long. What's better than Broyhill? Broyhill on sale.
OnStar now offers voice access to internet news, stocks, and email. Riddler.
Virtual advisor.
Get email.
Riddle me this. What do a river and money have in common?
A bank. Get my business news.
Gotham City Bank closed early today for its stockholders' dinner.
It's payday, boys!
Not today. Voice-activated internet service from OnStar.
Pledge Grab It Wet Floor Wipes.
It's very, very moist, very wet.
So this has the cleanser and everything on it.
And you can see where it's cleaning.
Actually, there's just juice right here. That's what I got out.
Look at that. I'm impressed. Here's his foot mark right here. Do you see it? Gone.
Grab it.
The Pledge Grab It wet floor wipes.
My house is going to be so clean. That's a lot of dirt.
It works. No mop to rinse. I love these wet cloths.
Pledge Grab It wet floor wipes.
S.C. Johnson, a family company.
No more buckets.
After 26 years of marriage, Tom and I realized that we're a little different from each other, except for one thing. A doctor says we should both take a single 81 milligram St. Joseph aspirin, the dosage doctors recommend most for aspirin therapy.
Tomorrow, reports from the front lines and from the home front as Americans come together 4 weeks later for a day of remembrance and a bold look ahead on Good Morning America.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at immigration and security. It is a delicate subject. Since the 11th of September, the government has arrested or detained 650 people as part of its investigation. And some of them, you've probably heard, were what the government refers to as out of status. In some cases, they had overstayed the time allowed on their visas. We have two reports on this subject. First, ABC's Pierre Thomas.
U.S. immigration officials estimate there are more than 2 million people in the U.S. on expired visas. That accounts for 40% of the nation's illegal population. Millions who have disappeared into the American landscape.
That's just intolerable, and of course that's a huge loophole for individuals who want to take advantage of our immigration laws and come in for the wrong reasons.
Sources tell ABC News the Immigration and Naturalization Service can't track the immigration status of 6 of the 19 hijackers. And of the roughly 160 people detained by immigration officials in the ongoing hijacking investigation, the overwhelming majority were out of status on expired visas.
We can't track them short of putting a chip in their head or something like that. You can't track people day to day. However, there are ways that we could do a better job, but it's an outdated system that's not effective.
The long-standing problems, a lack of funding, and a failure to improve technology. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
So what can be done? There are individuals and organizations who do think it shouldn't be easy for people to come and who want the government to be tougher. Every year, 30 million people get visas to the United States, and 500,000 every year are students. Here's ABC's Michelle Norris.
Until Hani Hanjour was listed as one of the September 11th suicide pilots, the federal government had no idea that he had used a student visa to enter the U.S. and then never showed up for class.
Getting a student visa is a way to get your foot in the door of the United States for whatever purpose you might have.
That's because there is no centralized tracking system for the 500,000 foreigners who enter the U.S. on student visas each year.
We've got a deeply flawed system, and we've got no accountability.
Senator Dianne Feinstein is one of several lawmakers now pushing for changes. First, a computerized tracking system with fingerprints and photos of all foreign students, stricter background checks, and quarterly reports from schools listing recent addresses, even the courses foreign students are taking, to monitor those who study sensitive subjects.
I don't think the United States should be providing the higher education for somebody that's going to go back and run a nuclear program in a country like Iraq.
There are concerns that the tracking system could stigmatize foreign students.
They would be presumed guilty, and then they would have to prove that they're innocent. And that's not what the American justice system is about.
Lawmakers first discussed these changes after learning that one of the terrorists in the '93 World Trade Center bombings was in the U.S. on an expired student visa. The proposed fixes have now been fast-tracked with the hope that simple record-keeping could perhaps save lives. Michelle Norris, ABC News, Washington.
One other note about immigration. 2 major crossings on the U.S.-Canadian border were closed for several hours today following a bomb threat. Officials shut down crossings in New York State and Vermont after a threat was phoned in to a nearby business. When we come back this evening, radios from the sky.
How can you provide for the future of the people who depend on you? With the power of Pacific Life. For over 130 years, Pacific Life has improved the lives of millions with investments, annuities, and insurance. Because careful planning today can help them reach their dreams tomorrow. Discover the power of Pacific Life.
Yesterday, allergies took you out of it. Today, Allegra can help bring you back. Only Allegra has fexofenadine for once daily relief for people 12 and older. Side effects include headache, upper respiratory tract infection, and back pain. Call your doctor now for more information. Allegra, enjoy your world.
Folgers Decaf. Really good coffee.
Your eyes need nutrition as well as the rest of your body, so Centrum and Centrum Silver added lutein to help maintain your precious sight. Now your eyes, your toes, and everything in between are covered by Centrum and Centrum Silver. More complete from A to Zinc.
Good. One bowl of Campbell's chicken noodle. How do those missing teeth feel?
Okay. You always knew Campbell's was good.
I never minded losing teeth. You made the noodles easier to slurp. Try it.
And nothing soothes you like Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup. Because Campbell's has that comforting combination of tender chicken, fresh egg noodles in a rich golden broth.
You've been practicing.
Campbell's. Good.
All the things you love about Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs, this may be the most interesting. Announcing interest-free financing on all Toyota Corollas, Tundras, and 4Runners for a limited time only.
I'm Paul Lindman. Coming up next on K2 News, a suspicious-looking package clears out Portland City Hall. Plus,
new security measures at Bonneville Lock and Dam. I'm Anna Song. Find out why these gates will soon be closed to the public.
and a feed store might provide an antidote for bioterrorism. It's next on K2.
September 11th. 1 month later, World News Tonight with Peter Jennings tomorrow.
Finally from us this evening, winning the war by winning minds. The U.S. will try in many ways to convince the people of Afghanistan that this war is not against them. And one of the things the U.S. may do soon is drop radios like these, which have already become popular in other parts of the underdeveloped world. They'll only be able to get one station. And to answer the obvious question, they do not use electricity nor batteries. You wind them up and they'll run for an hour. Hand power, so you can listen to the superpower. That is our report on World News Tonight. Tomorrow on World News, it will be 1 month since these attacks on the United States, and so we will spend most of the broadcast assessing the state of the nation. Don't forget Nightline this evening. I'm Peter Jennings. I hope we'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Anthrax, so many questions unanswered. Was it a criminal act? Who's at risk? And why is the only factory in the country that produces an anthrax vaccine not producing it? Barbara Walters goes to the source for answers. 2020 tonight.